are the 5 best albums that I listened to this year, and it's my own personal opinion, so if you do not see your favorite album on this list, it's highly likely that I just happened to not get to it this year. Welcome back to the heaviest show in the universe. My name is Kane Irvine, and if you love in-depth metal reviews, discussion, and theories about the GOAT, greatest genre of music in the entire universe, then go down below, sauce me one of these bad boys, and smash that subscribe button. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video to see my personal album of the year. I guarantee you, you are gonna love it. But first and foremost, I want to get to the honorable mentions because there were some fantastic albums this year that just didn't live up to these top 5. And the first one I want to get to is Glory Eternal by First Fragment. You see, this was a fantastic listen, but the album kind of overstayed its welcome, if you know what I mean. There were some incredible moments that had me gushing about how amazing the instrumentation and the pure artistic work is on this album. But the whole composition of it was just a bit too excessive. It was kind of like they were just trying to fit everything they possibly could into this album. Still a great album and would likely be in the top 10 of the year, just not good enough to crack the top 5. There was also Torn Arteries by Carcass and Mania Cult by Aborted that I didn't get a chance to get to this year that were still great albums in their own right. And of course, Bleed the Future I had a ton of fun listening to this year, and it was quite often on my gym playlist and got me through some really hard sets. But overall, the album just wasn't good enough to make it into the top 5. It was a bit too rinse and repeat, if you know what I mean. But those are my honorable mentions, and without further ado, let's get to number 5. Trivium. Probably the closest thing to a young Metallica that we have in today's day and age. And this album proves that they have the consistency and ingenuity to continue to write great music that, quite frankly, Metallica didn't have. Trivium has been ultra consistent through their whole career. This album was a ton of fun to listen to, and I loved the way Matt Heafy presented his vocal range from both high and low points. The riffs were heavy as f***. Alex Bent was a beast on the kit, and again, Heafy showed why he is one of the most consistent and talented musicians in metal today, and quite frankly, one of the most important, because Trivium reaches a hell of a wide audience, and they're very influential in that aspect. Tons of young kids are listening to Trivium, and that's what's getting a lot of people into metal today. But for them to be higher on this list with their next release, they need to change up their sound a little bit. As much as I love this album, it was business as usual for Trivium, and they stayed consistent with the same sound, the same song structure that they had since The Sin in the Sentence. And it works for them. They write great music. It's great music. But eventually, it's gonna get not so great. It's gonna get a little boring. But until then, my hat is off to Trivium. Fantastic album, gentlemen. And next up, we simply have the best, the most consistent band in metal today, Gojira. So this year, I spoke about both Trivium and Archspire rinsing and repeating the same formula for their music, and how it's great right now, but on their next albums, it's gonna be not so great. It's gonna be boring. They need to add something to their music to give it a jumpstart, to keep it great. And they should look to Gojira for some inspiration on that aspect. Gojira hasn't ever rested on their laurels. They've always worked to see how they could improve their sound. Going from a progressive death metal band to just a straight up metal band that incorporates genres and sounds from all over the metal spectrum while still keeping all metal fans happy? Oh, like, tell me, have you ever actually seen metal fans happy when a band changes their sound? That's right, that should tell you how awesome Gojira is right there. And with this album, they've shedded their death metal skin while keeping the spirit of death metal gently weaved into their music. This album isn't nearly as heavy as From Mars to Sirius, and it's not as epic as Les Enfants Sauvages, but it's their best album since either of those two epic masterpieces. Full of grooving, headbanging, proggy prowess, this album kept me coming back, and it's gonna keep you coming back for more. This is yet another well-deserved spot for Gojira. And next up, we have Gojira's young offspring, Jinjer. This was the first album that was ever reviewed on the heaviest show in the universe. And when I first heard it, I was pretty blown away. I was pretty confident that it was gonna end up on this list. Say that the engine that drives this band is easily Tatiana. She is the most talented, best vocalist in metal today. Their groovy, funky jazz influences make them so unique. And the way they wove those influences into this music on top of Tatiana's epic vocals truly delivers a performance worthy of an Album of the Year candidate. This album had me coming back for more all year, with straight bangers like Pearls and Swine and Mediator that show off their ability to play with timing and rhythms like not many other bands can. You see, a lot of prog bands do the same thing that Jinjer does, playing with timing and rhythms and adding extra notes, etc. But it's not as entertaining, it's not as groovy, it's there to be analyzed. And with Jinjer, they're able to add that groovy, proggy action without it becoming boring or just becoming musical masturbation. Another fantastic release from Jinjer cleanly places them at number 3 on this list. Man, 2021 was an epic year for technical death metal. I mean, you had First Fragment and Inferi and Archspire and tons of others releasing material. But the best tech death release from this year is number 2 on our list, Obscura, a Valediction. I love tech death, and the speed, the heaviness, the melodic structure of this album takes everything that I love and is absolutely fantastic about tech death and smushes it all into one super clean produced package. This isn't Obscura's best release, but it's up there for sure. On this album, Obscura shows why they are the kings of tech death today, taking the former guitarist of Goat's Necrophages, creating a more melodic sounding masterpiece than their previous releases, but still planting some heavy ball crunching tunes into round the whole package together. This is a perfect album to introduce someone to technical death metal, as it's clean, it's polished, and it's sound that newbies can still appreciate while they learn the nuances of the tech death genre. I love the whole vibe of this album, and it had no weak tracks to speak of, keeping a steady and confident pace throughout the whole album, but jacking up the heaviness right in the middle when you least expected it. Thank you for this beautiful masterpiece, Obscura. But your tech death prowess was overshadowed by but one other. But actually, on this album, this band went from more of a tech death band into a prog death band, more the likes of Opeth than Obscura. Either way, genre debates are lame as f***, and this album is definitely not. I present the very first, the heaviest show in the universe, Album of the Year award to Rivers of Nihil, The Work. And shall be perfect and so the stunning beauty and immaculate artistic prowess that Rivers of Nihil displayed on this album is second to absolutely none this year. And yet, I haven't seen it on one year-end metal list from any of these large publications. It's an absolute fucking crime. This just proves to me that mainstream publications like Kerrang or Revolver are completely out to damn lunch on the topic of what good metal is. Anyway, Rivers of Nihil have crafted a progressive masterpiece with The Work, which should come as no surprise, as their previous album was hailed as one of the best releases of the decade, rightfully so. But this album isn't the same as Where Owls Know My Name. They, like Gojira, didn't rely on their previous achievements to guide them forward. No. Here, Rivers of Nihil leave the pure tech death sound that personified their previous releases in favor of a more streamlined, gentler sound that takes their signature brutality and sprinkles it in all the right places. This album has some of the most beautiful pieces of music they've ever released, and their maturity as a group only continues to show on these songs. There was no way that these guys could come back and write another Where Owls Know My Name. They had to experiment, and they overwhelmingly succeeded in that experiment. The heavy parts are fantastic, the smooth parts are beautiful, and the whole album comes together to show what a true musical, artistic masterpiece looks like. Front to back, this album is the best released this year, hands down, and I cannot give it enough glowing praise. Alright, that is the heaviest show in the universe's very first album of the year list. What did you think? Did I commit some heinous crime by leaving some bands like First Fragment off this list? I feel like a lot of people are going to be disappointed that I ended up not putting them in the top 5, but that's just one man's opinion, and I guarantee you if it was a top 10, they would have been in the top 10. But I want to hear what your list is. Top 10, top 25, top 5, whatever it is. I can't wait to see what you guys say down below, and if you have any recommendations for me that I may have skipped over this year. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go down below, bing bam boom, one of these bad boys, smash that subscribe button, and I wish you an absolute Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for all your support this year. Have a fantastic rest of your day, a beautiful holiday with you and your family, and I will see you next week in the new year for the next episode of the heaviest show in the universe. Long live metal.